People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, and we are back. Guys, this week we have an amazing guest. I can't wait to get into it. We're in December. This is something that I would have loved to have had in the month of October. But you know what? This kind of thing happens all year long, and there really is no season for this. So let's make it work. Everybody, it's Kristy Sumner with Soul Sisters. How are you, girl? How are you?
I am fantastic. How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing great. So tell everybody, just break that off and let everybody know, what is Soul Sisters?
Well, Soul Sisters Paranormal is a all-female paranormal investigation team that I formed with my twin sister and our younger sister and two female family friends in 2013. And basically, we go to historic and reportedly haunted locations across the country, really telling the historical narrative of those locations, and then coupling that with any paranormal evidence that we find along the way on those investigations.
That's awesome. That sounds. It sounds like I've always thought that'd be fun, but at the same time, I think I'm too chicken. In all honesty, I like watching it on the screen, but I'm not sure that I would make it if anything actually happened if I was there in person.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let me tell you. I mean, there's definitely been moments when we've been startled. You hear your name called through the darkness, or you hear a door slam, or you see something open. It definitely gets your heart racing. Yeah.
I'd have nightmares. Do you have that after those visits?
No, I really don't. A lot of people ask if we've encountered anything evil or demonic or anything like that, and that's really not what we've ever experienced. I think that, social media has kind of done a disservice in the point that a lot of people think it's dark and evil, but it's really not. We're in these historic places really trying to connect with that historical narrative, like I said, and then what we find is just that spirits are just energy, and that they want to tell their story. They want to be remembered, and we give them that outlet to do that.
That's cool. I like it.
See, from a magic standpoint, I want to say you're just out there. It's a placebo effect. You want to see something, you're going to feel something. But we both experience things. So it's like part of my magic brain wants to say, come on.
There's a trick to it.
No, well, like a placebo effect is a real thing. If you think something's haunted and you go in there, you're going to feel something brush against you. You can work yourself up into a frenzy. But you guys have actually seen things. You've actually heard things that you can't just knock off to imagination.
Oh, absolutely. And Wes, there is a theory out there that people can manifest their thoughts and their reality. To your point, if they go into a location and they think about it hard enough, that you can actually manifest and believe that something is paranormal. What we do is we go in with a very scientific-minded application and technique. So we all five of us come from a scientific background. We all have advanced degrees. We're used to doing research. And so we go in really first and foremost to debunk other stories and other claims that paranormal investigators have made about these locations. We take temperature readings, we take pressure readings, which we try to find things that are naturally occurring that could cause somebody to think that it's paranormal, when in reality it's a naturally occurring phenomena, or it's in the environment at some point. When we can account for all of those things, what we're left with is the unexplainable. So, for example, if I'm in a house and I know that there are no men in the house because we're an all-female team, yet I'm capturing a man's voice, I can't explain that. I have no explanation for that. Or if I'm capturing a child's voice and I know that there's no children on the property, that's something that to me is unexplainable.
Why is it creepier when it's a kid? Why is that?
You're absolutely right. It is. It's one of those things that you really don't expect. You expect to go in and interact with a spirit that was an adult. So to your point, interacting with children is very different. And, I think because we are an all-female team, we do have experiences with children, probably more so than a co-ed team or an all-male team. I think because women are... I think women are naturally more empathic and more, in tune to that type of spirit. And I think spirits feel more comfortable with an all-female team. So we've had numerous occasions where we've heard a child spirit, or we've interacted with what we think is the spirit of a child.
That's what I would think. They'd want to come to mom. They'd want to
Yeah.
come to a motherly type.
Figure, yeah.
So, I mean, I'm going to get off this, I promise. But in my head, just trying to debunk magic and everything, what is, in your line of work, what do you call it when you watch a horror movie? You're at a heightened sense of awareness that night going to bed. You're jumping in the bed. I do. I jump in the bed instead of walking normally thinking something's going to grab me, or taking scraps out to my chickens at nighttime after a horror movie. It's 10 times worse. You're already in that heightened sense of awareness, so anytime you go on these investigations,
But I think she's coming from.
I'd be more like Shaggy on Scooby Doo. I'd be like freaking out the entire time because I want to know the stories going into it because you have to debunk them.
Right.
But then my brain is going to be seeing shadows.
But I think she's coming from a more scientific background in you than what you are. You're coming in there expecting ghosts and goblins, and she's coming in there going, okay, did this really happen, or is there like something scientific that can explain it away? You see what I mean? She's coming at it from a different perspective than you.
Men being the protectors, I'm looking more too, I think. I don't know. Am I looking at every angle and every corner for danger more than a woman would? I don't know. Maybe I'm being sexist. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, and I understand where you're coming from with the movies and the horror flicks and stuff. Honestly, it's really not like that. Now, don't get me wrong. When you go into a haunted jail or a prison or an asylum and it's completely dark and you're relying on those different senses other than sight, you do have those moments of, okay, you can feel things and things are heightened. But when we go in, we're actually trying to have that experience. So we're waiting for that. And then two, when you look at a television show, most of them are 60 minutes long. They have an investigation for 15 minutes. They do an investigation review in 15 minutes, then a half an hour reviewing all of that, and boom, you're done. We can be in a location for 8, 12, 24 hours and not feel a thing, not hear a thing, not see a thing. So it's not like something is jumping out at every corner, or when you're walking down a hallway, something's going to come out and grab you. I've been to over 36 of the most reportedly haunted locations in the country, and I can tell you I've never been grabbed, I've never been touched, I've never been scratched. None of that has happened. Now, we have captured some interesting voices. We've seen some unexplainable shadow figures and light anomalies. But really for us, to your point earlier, we go in and try to debunk those things first, and then to us it's actually fascinating when we capture those things because we can connect those paranormal experiences to the historical narrative of the location.
Cool.
I'm trying to be professional here, but talking ghost stories and your cat's tail came over right when you
Yeah.
jumped a little bit. I'm like, oh,
I'm sorry. This
I would not
so
do
this is
jump.
This is Sally, our jail cat, and she likes to be the center of attention, so I apologize for that.
No, you're good.
You're totally fine.
You're talking about I've never been touched, and that cat's tail went right next to her ear. I'm like, ooh, that's weird. That's weird. All right, so how did you guys get started in all this? Something must have ignited this whole thing in you.
Yeah, so like I said, my sisters and I, we come from that scientific background, so we're always questioning things. And so we would watch these television shows really in the early 2000s, when Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventurers really started to become mainstream on television shows. And we started asking ourselves, when they went to a location, why didn't they ask this question? Why didn't they use this technique? Why didn't they stay longer here or try this or that? And so we told ourselves if we ever had the opportunity to conduct a paranormal investigation, we'd jump at that chance. And so we all live in different parts of the country, so we would routinely get together for girls' trips, girls' weekends, to meet up and just have a girls' weekend. And so in 2013, we were in Moundsville, West Virginia, which is where the West Virginia State Penitentiary is located, one of the most reportedly haunted locations in the country. And we had a family friend that sat on the board of that facility, and he said, while you're here for that weekend, why don't you take one of your nights and stay in the penitentiary and see if you can connect with our spirits? So we went into Walmart, got some voice recorders and a couple of digital cameras and a couple night vision cameras, and we left that experience with what we felt was some compelling unexplained evidence, i.e. footsteps when we knew that there was nobody walking, doors slamming, a couple disembodied voices. And so at that point, we really kind of wanted to pursue this a little bit further. So we formed Soul Sisters Paranormal. We came up with our theme music, our logo, and all of that. And what we really want to do is go to these historic locations and tell that historic narrative that other people might not know about, and present that to our audience along with the paranormal evidence that we found.
Nice.
They are the female Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
We are.
Minus catching. Yeah.
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 They haven't caught
Yeah.
one yet. They haven't caught one yet.
So when you interact with the spirits, have you ever had, like, I know, like, okay, so all I know is what I see on TV. Sorry.
Sure.
So
No.
have you ever had like a full-on back and forth conversation, or is it always kind of like what you see? Hey, if you can hear us tap on the window 3 times type thing. You know what I mean?
So we've had direct responses. I wouldn't so much call it a back and forth conversation, but for example, when we investigated Hales Bar Dam, which is in Tennessee, this was an old dam that was built in 1913, and it has a series of tunnels that run underneath the dam. So we were investigating one night, and in the tunnels, I asked if something could say my name. And the name Kristy was yelled down the tunnels by a man when there were obviously no men there. So we've had those type of intelligent responses. We've had when I ask, if there's some instances where I ask, can you say your name? And we get a direct name. Or we were at Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia, which was built during the Revolutionary War, but during the Civil War, it was used to hold prisoners of war, both from the Union and the Confederacy. And so in one of the casemates, I asked the question, what's the name of your president? And we got the response of Lincoln. And so those are what we call intelligent responses. So we have a lot of examples of intelligent responses, those things that answer in an intelligent way. And then we have things that are called what we call residual. Those are more things like footsteps, where they're not acting on any type of question. They're more like, the best way I can explain it is, imagine a vinyl record that has a scratch on it, and every time the needle hits the scratch, it's going to jump. So kind of like that. So almost like a blip in time, where like an anniversary, you're going to hear footsteps or maybe phantom gunfire or something like that. Those things aren't intelligent. We call those residual. And so we've had both examples of both of those types of hauntings.
Okay.
See, in Virginia, we have a lot of Civil War battlefields, and everybody says they see things walking through. But I mean, you could be out there if it's an anniversary of that battle. Maybe that's when it's more heightened instead of just July 3rd, just a random day.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We found that anniversaries of death dates or of an occurrence of something that releases a lot of energy, such as like the Battle of Gettysburg or the Battle of Antietam or Chickamauga, if there's a larger release of energy during that event, that tends to be heightened on the anniversary of that event. So we've captured evidence of that, absolutely.
So is that almost kind of like hearing memories from that time, that day that it happened? So you're hearing like memories of what they went through during the battle?
That's exactly right. So that's a great way to say that. One example I can give of that is we were investigating the Ma Barker house, which is in Central Florida, and this was the site of the 1935 shootout between Ma and Fred Barker, who were 2 members of the Barker Karpus gang, and 12 members of the FBI. And so the Barker Karpus gang was the most prolific gang of the late 1920s, early 1930s. And through a series of events, I won't go into the whole history of it, but through a series of events, in 1934, they ended up splitting up because J. Edgar Hoover and his men were going after the gang members. So Ma and her son Fred rented this very small house, this lakeside house in Ocklawaha, Florida, and they waited there to try to let the heat of the law die down. But on January 16th, 1935, the FBI had tracked him to this house, and that morning they surrounded the house and a gun battle ensued. And it was the longest gun battle in FBI history, and it culminated in Ma and Fred being killed in an upstairs bedroom in that house. So fast forward to 2016, we were the first paranormal investigation team allowed to investigate that house. And
wow.
So on the anniversary of that shootout is when I wanted to investigate. So the first thing that we did was that day, January 16th, we set up a bunch of stationary equipment, so cameras and voice recorders, and we left the house to essentially be by itself that night, because I wanted to see if there was any residual hauntings that would take place on the anniversary of the shootout. So the cameras and voice recorders ran, which would essentially be, because the gun battle started at 5 p.m. on January 16th, 1935. So we had our cameras and voice recorders running at 5 a.m. It ran throughout the entire night to include that 5 a.m. mark. When we went back and listened to the audio, at that time, in that upstairs bedroom, we captured two voices. The first one said, Freddie. The next one said, yeah, Ma. And the first one said, get ready. I think that's what they actually said right before the gun battle started. So to your point, I think it's like a memory, right? It's encased in that house. So we were able to capture that, which was extremely compelling.
So walls really do talk. See that?
Exactly.
These walls could talk. They do.
Yep, they absolutely, yep.
What do you think the whole spirit thing is? Is it, I've heard multiple timelines and our timelines are overlapping. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure out all that stuff. What do you think it is?
For me personally, the residual hauntings, like I said, those kind of blips in time, right? Those large releases of energy that on the anniversary of that death date per se, you're going to get that response again. There was nothing that we did to provoke that response that night at the Ma Barker house. It just happened, and it was going to happen whether somebody was there or not. We just happened to have cameras running, so we were able to capture it. Now, for intelligent hauntings or intelligent responses and such, I operate on three different theories. Now, I am a Christian, so I do believe in heaven. But I do believe that when people pass, there are some instances where they don't ascend automatically, that they're allowed to stay behind, either because they have unfinished business, and we've seen examples of that, or some of them stay behind because they have a fear of retribution of the life they lived on earth. They're afraid to move on to what's next because they don't want to face an eternal sentence for what they did on earth. I think that's why we see a lot of jails and prisons and really asylums as well, that have those type of hauntings, because those spirits just want to stay here. And then the third one is, I think that there are some instances where they just don't know how to move on. And I think we see that a lot with kids. They know that they're dead. They know that they need to move somewhere, but they don't know how to get there. And we've had examples of all three of those things, which is why I operate on those three theories.
Wow. Aww. That's kind of sad for the kids.
Think about a kid though. If they see a big bright light like that 1,000-watt halogen bulb you saw the other day, would you want to go towards that? I mean, that's, you don't know what.
What do you do?
Right. How do you, if that's really what it is, going towards a light? But I mean, who knows?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. So we have some of those experiences, but like I said, we've been fortunate enough to really capture some interesting things that we just can't explain.
So I have another question. So in the other type where you ask a question and they give you an answer, the intelligent one that you're talking about, have you ever had any of them volunteer extra information, or do they only answer the question?
No, we've had some that volunteer information.
Okay.
An example of that is, so I co-own the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. So my business partner, Miranda Young, and I, we're both paranormal investigators. She's Ghost Biker Explorations, and I'm with Soul Sisters Paranormal. And 3 years ago, we came together as best friends, but now we're business partners, and we run the historic Scott County Jail as what we call a paranormal research center. So we open it as a museum by day, and then investigators can investigate during the night. And this jail was built in 19 1904. It was in operation as the county jail until 2008. And then it sat vacant really until we opened the museum in 2021. So when we came, now Miranda is from the area. I'm from Florida. And so when we came in here, there was a lot of history that we obviously wanted to delve into, to research, to find the different stories associated with the jail. One of the most prominent stories happened in 1933, where a mob of angry people came in, they busted down the door of the jail, and they grabbed 2 inmates from the 3rd floor, and they took them out and essentially lynched them for crimes that they had allegedly committed. Now, during this whole setup of our museum, there was a gentleman that wrote a book about that time frame in history, right? And he wanted to sell it in our gift shop. So it's a factual book written from a fictional character's standpoint. So basically this fictional character is telling you this real historical story. So one Saturday he came in with an advanced copy of the book, and so he handed it to us, wanted us to read it, to sell it in our gift shop. And so we just kind of thumbed through it real quick because we were real busy that day. And the fictional character, like I said, was the main driver in this book. So fast forward to that night when the night that we got the book, there was a paranormal investigation team that came into the jail, and they were in one of the rooms and they were using a device that we call an ovilus. It's basically a word bank. And the theory is that spirits can use their energy to create words so we can talk to them. And so they were in this room and they got the word anvil, and then they got the word anvil again. And then they got the word anvil again, which is extremely rare on this device to get the word 3 times. And so they came out of the investigation and they asked us, does the word anvil have any significance to the jail? Well, it so happens that the fictional character's name in this book is Anvil Clemens. And so my business partner contacted the author and said, why did you name your fictional character Anvil? And he said the reason that he did is because when the real mob came in to grab these guys in 1933, they beat the jailer in order to get the keys. And they beat him almost to death. And as they ran by, one of the people in the mob said, we beat that boy so bad, looked like he'd been beat by an anvil. So his nickname for the rest of his life became Anvil. Now, we never knew that. The team never knew that, but yet we have the jail giving us this word anvil in the exact room where this man was beat and given his nickname Anvil. So to us, that's an example of the jail telling us this information.
Yeah. Wow. That's really kind of neat. So he just confirmed what they knew.
I would ask where the gold is. I would always be like treasure hunting. I would always be trying to. I would only look for places like they have unfinished business. They need someone to dig up that gold. That's the cases I would investigate. Then it's worth the risk to be scared.
Okay. So I have another question for you.
Sure.
On our first wedding anniversary, we went to Gettysburg and we did a little written ghost tour, and we went around. It was self-guided. We went around to these little different places.
I think we bought a book.
Yeah. Possibly, but we went around to, it might have been a book, but it was a self-guided tour, and we went around to these different places, and one place, it was like a fence with a field, and there's nothing back there, but they said people get pictures with these little fluids, so we tried it, and I was just curious, do you think, we were there in the middle of the day, and there were other people there, does that make it less likely to have something come forward if there's lots of people? Would it be are they more apt to approach or talk or show up in your pictures when it's not as high of volume of people?
My luck, they only show up when you go to the bathroom. That's when that's what I would.
No, to your question. Well, first of all, I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. First of all, we get a lot of questions asking why don't spirits appear during the day. They absolutely appear during the day. Most people aren't looking for them during the day, or they don't realize what they've captured on film or on camera because they think it's another person on the battlefield. Now, it would be hard. Say you're taking a picture of a group of people. if you don't know everybody in the group or you don't know where everybody was standing, it could be difficult to point it out, especially if they're strangers to you. But if you're just taking a picture of an empty field at Gettysburg, which has happened numerous times, it's extremely likely that you'll get something on that camera that is paranormal. Gettysburg is extremely active. I've been there several times and stayed in some of the houses there, and we've always been able to get some type of either feeling or picture or EVP that's happened there. So battlefields really have the opportunity to get something unexplained, and especially and during the day as well. So don't discount anything that you see or hear during the day. Their spirits are active 24/7. It's not a nighttime phenomena.
They don't care how many people are around. It doesn't matter. Right?
Not that I've found. It's just hard to determine if they're there, because if you're looking at a group of 100 people, unless you know there's 100 people and you see 101,
Right.
you may not be in tune to really what you're seeing. So it's going to be obviously more difficult, especially if you're trying to capture noises or something like that. Again, if you've got 100 people traipsing around, you're not going to be able to distinguish something that is paranormal. So the more people that you have, the more noise pollution or essentially people pollution that you're going to get in audio or video or picture evidence.
Yeah.
And what's
I
the
know
chances somebody in Gettysburg dressed up like a Civil War soldier?
Exactly. Right. You don't realize.
Any tourist could be doing that.
Right.
Yeah,
There
absolutely.
was one place where, and we were the only ones there for that minute, that had a fence and a field, and they said walk down this little road, and we took our picture. I think we took turns taking picture, and we didn't get anything, but it felt weird. And at the time I just wrote it off as, oh, that's just me because we're not ghost tour. Like that's just. And I'm wondering if I really, if there's really something there or not. Never know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. But I did. It felt weird at the time, but we didn't get anything on our picture. So
Yeah, Gettysburg, really any battlefield, when you have that, like I said, that large release of emotion, and you've got people that are dying and wounded, even animals that are dying and wounded in a small amount of time over a large area, absolutely. So Gettysburg, Chickamauga, Antietam, Perrysville, Andersonville, all of these locations are very high in paranormal activity for that reason.
the war sites are high. Are jails? Are those
You
higher?
said jails and penitentiaries.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So, right here in Tennessee, about 45 minutes from us, we've got the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. That was a penitentiary that was built in 1896. It was in operation until 2009. It was called the End of the Line. It was a maximum security facility, and basically they house the worst of the worst at that location. It is extremely active. Our historic Scott County Jail. I mean, we're just a 3-story little county jail. And right now we're listed in one of the top 5 haunted locations in Tennessee because we have so much activity here. So to your point, it's one of those things that, you know, this jail and other jails like it and other penitentiaries like it have seen so many things, right? That energy in there, and most of it has not been positive energy. It's been negative energy, and not negative in a demonic sense, but negative in a, sense that you're negatively confined in this area for years. And that just really kind of permeates that location.
Well, the only reason I ask, I guess, about jails again is because, they're not all death penalty, it's all, so I was just...
No, but if they do die in there, she said they might have done something where they're afraid to go.
Afraid to go, right, yeah.
Mhm.
But, So that's right.
Yeah.
So
And
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you go.
So, like our jail here, again, small county jail. We did not have any death penalty cases here, but we did have 7 inmates that were lynched from this jail. We have had natural deaths here. We know of 5 suicides that happened here. One of our sheriffs was killed right outside the front door in 1925. It's still an unsolved murder. We think he is one of our resident spirits that is here. So you have that type of history as well. And so, again, when you're talking about a building that stood from 1904 to 2021, that's a long history. So there's a lot of things that happened in here, and so that's one of the reasons why we have so much activity.
Has anyone who's had an unsolved murder ever been able to tell you who did it? Like, could the sheriff
Or maybe not you.
potentially tell, somebody who did it?
I have heard of stories like that. It has not happened to me personally. When we ask our sheriff here, we have various pieces of equipment. When we ask him if he knows who shot him, he always says no. We get the indication of no because he was shot from behind. And so like I said, when we ask the question, we don't get any type of response that we can follow up on. But I have heard of stories where there have been spirits that have told who their killer are. I mean, the Greenbrier ghost, that's one that's actually was reported in the newspaper, right? This ghost essentially told her daughter, her mother, who killed her. And so it went to trial, and they actually found the guy guilty of murder. I can't remember the exact date of that, but it's called the Greenbrier Ghost. If you look it up, you'll see it's the only case. That's the only case where a ghost, the evidence of a ghost, was allowed to be presented at trial.
Wow.
So what other evidence did they have besides the ghost? They had to have something else.
Yeah.
Unless it was 16, 17, 1800s.
Yeah, so it was either the mid or late 1800s. Again, I'm sorry, it escapes me. The time frame escapes me. So according to the ghost, she was able to lead them, to different evidence. And then when they exhumed the girl's body, they found out that she had been strangled. And so they were able to connect it to the husband, and he was convicted of her murder because of that evidence.
Wow.
Wow.
All right, so something you touched on earlier, you said animals. Have you ever heard an animal?
Yes. Yeah, so there's been different instances where we have heard cat sounds. In fact, we were at the old hospital on College Hill in Williamson, West Virginia. That's the last video that I released a couple of weeks ago. And this hospital has a long history. It was built in the early 1900s, and then it burned down, and then they rebuilt it. And one of the lead physicians at this hospital, he was also a veterinarian. So he would routinely bring in animals, even horses, into this hospital and treat them in the hospital. And so there are reports of phantom noises or phantom animal noises in this hospital. And so when we did our investigation, anytime we investigate, we set up stationary voice recorders and cameras. So even though we're not in a hallway or a room, we always have eyes and ears in that hallway or room. And so when we went back and reviewed our audio from this hallway, you clearly hear a dog panting. You hear him walk into the hallway and he's panting, and then it just dissipates. The panting stops. And because I have a camera there, you can see that there's no dog in the hallway. So yeah, we've captured phantom animal noises.
Aww.
So when you're looking at 20 hours of audio on those, are you putting it in like a computer software and just looking for the spikes? Are you actually sitting there listening to it?
I am listening to it. So if
Does
I've got
it not
10,
show up in the spikes?
I'm sorry.
Does it not show up on the?
I'm sure it would, but for me, my ears are my best tool. And so if I'm listening, if I've got 10 voice recorders running for 10 hours, I'm listening to 100 hours of audio. I literally just put it in, hit play, and listen to it because I don't want to miss anything. And for me, that's part of my investigation experience, right? I want to be able to hear these things as it was recorded. I don't want somebody to come back and say, oh, you manipulated it with audio software. Nope, this is exactly how it was captured on the voice recorder. And so for me, that's how I want to hear it. I'm sure if I uploaded it into any software program, some of them may spike, but some of them may not. Some of them are such a low frequency that it may not show up as a spike. And again, those are something that I just don't want to miss, especially when it comes to things like footsteps or things that aren't a human voice or aren't a voice, but could be something like the dog panting or footsteps or a door shutting or something like that. So for me, it's part of my investigation experience to listen to it all.
Can I?
Go ahead.
So when you set up all these cameras and the voice recorders, are you doing more often like what you did with the Ma, and I can't remember his other name, down in Florida, where you just leave it alone? Or are you there personally present most of the time, but you just have other things, other places that you have to go back and listen to?
Yeah, the
more
Mom
often
Barker
than
house, and that's a great question. So the Mom Barker house was a unique experience because we had really complete permission to do what we wanted in and around that house. So because we had complete control of the environment, I wanted the house to essentially sit vacant on its own the night of the anniversary with my recording equipment inside of it. And I wanted to essentially see if the house would talk while those things were in there. So to your point, we left that night and we came back the next day and collected it all. Every other investigation were there. So for example, like the old hospital on College Hill, right? That's a 5-story hospital. And we can't obviously be in every hallway, in every room at every point of the night. And so I don't want to miss anything while we're there. So that's why we set up stationary cameras and voice recorders, because I don't want to miss anything. So one of the things that we captured at the old hospital on College Hill is there was the basement of that hospital used to be the maternity ward. It also was the pediatric ward where they would treat kids, and so there was a ball, like one of those rubber balls that was sitting in the hallway. And so you see us leave the hallway, and about 20 minutes later, this ball starts rolling back and forth in this hallway. Now, if I didn't have a camera on it, we wouldn't have seen it. So that's the reason why I basically want eyes and ears on everything that I can have it on in that location when we investigate.
Wow, that's cool. Has anything ever? Go ahead. Go. No, you go.
I'm just going to finish with that, and so that's different than what you see right now on social media. A lot of people just go in and either do a live or they record in the moment and they're out. But for us, that's why it takes me so long to get a video together, because it takes me about 3 months from the investigation to actually editing and putting together and producing the video, because we do a lot of historical research, and then we've got to go through all of that recorded audio and video as well. And so it's a little bit different than how other investigators investigate.
Yeah. So you mentioned the ball rolling back and forth. Has anything like that ever happened and it's knocked over your stuff and then you have nothing, like turned it off and then you've missed? Like if the ball ran into your camera or anything, would it? Am I making sense? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Yeah.
We've never had anything physically assault our cameras, except
Not
for
on purpose. It's like the kids rolling the ball back and forth. It just bumps it over and oops. Now you're out.
No, we've never had anything like that. But I will say, at Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, we had a camera set up in one of the cell blocks, and we're nowhere. And Brushy Mountain has about 7 different buildings that you can investigate, right? So it's a large penitentiary campus. It's a huge maximum security facility. So we had a camera set up on the bottom floor of this cell block, and for about 3 hours during the night, there are just rocks coming at this camera. You see it, and just pelting our camera with these rocks. We obviously weren't there. We did not see it happen in the moment. I'm just watching the video when we left, and I'm watching this. I'm like, what the heck is hitting my camera? And then you just see these rocks, and they're not coming down. They're coming horizontally at our camera. So it's pretty wild. It was pretty interesting. So that's really the only time one of our cameras were assaulted.
Wow.
Are you seeing it like lift and throw, or are you seeing it just come into frame?
Coming into frame, and you actually hear it like whoop, 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 hitting the camera. It's on our video. If you go to our website and watch Brushy Mountain, it's on there. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So you said you used to watch those television shows. Do you like them? Do you like
I
those?
do.
For me, it's always,
I do.
like you said, clipping it and for TV, and I saw something. So much of that, as a magician, can be faked. So much of that can be faked on television. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, not so much. I mean, I understand that when you're watching those television shows, right, their entire reason for being is to form an audience base, to get advertisement, and to get money, right? I understand that. Capitalism, that's great. But you also have to remember as an audience viewer that those things are also scripted. For example, when we went to Fort Mifflin, we had the fort for 12 hours. Now, when ghost hunters went to Fort Mifflin, they had it for a week. So they were investigating. They had to wear the same clothes for continuity purposes. So even though it looks like they're there for one night, they're filming for 7 days. And so their opportunity to get things is a little bit more than we had. But to your point, there are some things that, could be sensationalized to get those ratings, to get those reviews.
Did you ever? We love the television show Ozzy Osbourne Wants to Believe. Did you ever watch that?
I've seen several episodes. I'm not a follower of it, but I've seen several episodes of it. Yep.
Oh, we loved it, and he made fun of it. So on these scary clips, he's making fun. So it eases the child in me because I'm ready to be terrified and looking for shadows, but he's like, oh, ball lightning, and it's funny again. So you hinted on it earlier. You said something, it wasn't demonic. Have you ever seen anything you would consider demonic?
No. And again, I think it's one of those things that is really sensationalized for media and right now for social media. You see a lot of these YouTubers and TikTokers going in and screaming and running out and saying something scratched them and touched them. That is not the case of anything that we've investigated. Now, I will say that there are instances where things feel more negative, but I'm not going to say it. And by that, I mean, like for a jail or a prison, right? So let's go back to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary. Again, these are the worst of the worst. They're in here for murder, for rape, for, some really bad things. They're going to be bad spirits, right? It's not because they're demonic or evil. They're bad in life. They're jerks in life. They're going to be jerks in death. So there's one cell block that is a little bit darker. You walk in, you feel it, it's heavier. In those instances, what we do, if we feel anything like that, we'll go in and say, listen, we understand that this is your space. We're going to leave some things here. If you want to communicate with us, you can interact with these things. But we realize this is your space. We're going to go investigate another section of the building and leave you to it. And that's how we kind of handle it. We go in with a sense of respect for the spirits that are there. We don't provoke. We don't go in with chest thumping or bravado. We go in with respect for the spirits that are there. And we tell them that, we introduce ourselves. We say we're here to communicate with you and tell your story. We're not here to provoke you. We're not here to get you to do whatever or perform in any way. If you want to communicate with us, great. If not, that's great as well. We understand. And then we also say you can't hurt us or you can't come with us when we leave somewhere. And we set those boundaries. And so far, knock on wood, every spirit that we've interacted with has respected those boundaries.
Nice.
Well, that was my next question about following. You hear stuff about following. Has anybody in your staff been touched? Your sister or the other people?
Oh yeah, yeah. So there are instances where we'll say, if you want to touch us, I give you permission to do that, but you can't hurt us. We do this with kids a lot. So we'll sit down on the floor. If you want to give me a high five, if you want to touch my hand, if you want to pull my pant leg, you can do that, but you can't hurt us. And yeah, we've all been touched. We've had our hair tugged, pant legs pulled. You feel something grab your hand. So that does happen, absolutely. But again, within those boundaries and those frameworks that we give, I think because we go in with that level of respect, we also get respect. And so, no, we've never had anything follow us home. We've never had anything harm us or anything. Now, we've had things say, get out or leave me alone. And that's fine. We respect that. That is not a problem. You want us out? This is your space. It's like going into somebody's living room and you go in and you kick over a chair and you say, I'm not going to believe you're here unless you turn that chair back over. You're not going to do that. So it's essentially what we go into essentially the homes of these spirits and these entities, and we say, we're here to talk to you. We're not here to hurt you or provoke you in any way, but you can't hurt us or provoke us either.
So what is your take? Okay, this is a little off track of what we were just talking about, but I gotta ask. What is your take on Ouija boards? He's like, Mattel made them. There's no way it can conjure spirits. So, I mean, can it really be used as a tool to conjure spirits or no? That's just fun, and it's just getting the excitement of everybody up there, and somebody's really actually moving it, and you just don't realize who.
But, Kristy, also, that's coming from the same guy that says he watches a horror movie, and he's jumping in bed from across the room. So I can talk a good game, but I'm not playing with him either.
Well, I'll tell you, for Soul Sisters Paranormal, we do not use Ouija boards. Basically, because of the negative connotation behind them. There are a lot of people that feel that they can conjure things up. We just don't go there. We have other methods and other tools that we use. So Ouija boards have never been anything in our arsenal of tools that we take with us. I know other people use them. And again, I think it's one of those things where anything that you go in with in an investigation and you make up your mind already that you're going to try to use this to communicate with somebody, if you use it in any way that is negative or with the wrong intentions, I think can be used as something that's not so great, if that makes sense. I really think that when you go into an investigation, your intentions are the main thing that you have to be aware of. If you go in and you want to get scratched and you want to get hit and you want something to, yell and scream at you in your face, then you're probably going to manifest that on some level. And I think the same thing is true with Ouija boards. If you go in and you're sitting down there like, oh, we're gonna use this to conjure up something, dark, you may get that response. So for us, it's just one of those things that we don't use.
Yeah.
All right. So theaters. Have you ever investigated any theaters?
I have, yes. So we did the Monticello Opera House in Central Florida, or up near Tallahassee, Florida. That was pretty interesting. Had a couple of things happen that night, nothing major, but that's really the only theater that we've investigated so far. I've got a couple on the books for next year, though.
We did a show. I don't know. We did a show in West Virginia, and the guy that ran it, I'll never forget him. His name was Mike. He showed me around the place, and I just had weird feelings in the back of the room.
He was telling us about.
No, but I had weird feelings. Like I had to go to the dressing room during the stage show. She does magic on stage behind my back, and I don't know. So I leave to go back in the dressing room to pick up a prop. Really, I'm just taking a sip of water or whatever, taking a break. But I had weird feelings back there. Now, I usually don't have that on a stage. And he's giving us the tour. That he's like, this is the colored section for where the colored people used to have to sit to watch the television show. To watch the movie. This is where we have the projector when we do movies now. That's the projector area. And, we have investigations from all over the world. People come here, and they actually turn the theater into a haunted house ghost tour combo during Halloween. And I'll get you the name of that place.
Yeah, they say there's a resident ghost, and he's I can't remember he or she, but even goes in the bathroom with you. And I'm like, wow. That's cool.
But it's a guy in a plaid. It's a guy in a plaid shirt. I'll get the name of it.
That'd be great. I'd love to investigate. Yeah.
So my other thing, just being a magician, I have to bring it back to magic. Sorry,
sure.
That's my world. What about a pact with your other investigators? Like Houdini had a famous pact with his wife. If I ever pass before you, this is the word. You go to a seance. You go here. You go somewhere, this is the word I'll give you. And she did it for, 20 years, 40 years after his death, never got that word. So then she revealed the word to the world. So,
but maybe he moved on. He didn't.
Right, but do you have a pact, or do you know about the pact?
I absolutely know that story. It's a fascinating story. And I know that there are some instances where like a husband and wife will say something, if I go first or whatever. And I do believe that there are signs. I've heard of stories where there was one where a mother had passed and her thing was always to give her son red balloons. And he was sitting in the park a couple months after she passed, and a little kid just walked up and gave him a red balloon for no reason. So I think there are signs. It may not necessarily be a word per se, but I think there are signs. One example, I'll try to make this quick, is my granddaddy died in 1986. He's my grandpa. So we called him Granddaddy. He died in 1986, and he was married to my Nana, my grandmother, and they were extremely close, right? They loved each other, great love, all that. And so I was extremely close with my Nana. And in 2016, I had a very vivid dream. This dream was the most vivid dream I've ever had in my life. And Granddaddy was in this dream, and he comes out of this wall, and he looks at me, and he says, I'm waiting on your Nana. You're going to be getting a call soon. And then he leaves, and I wake up. And I mean, I didn't know what to do with that information, right? What do you do with that information? And about 2 weeks later, my Nana was in an accident. And so she went into the hospital. She developed MRSA, and she went into hospice. So she was in hospice for about 2 weeks. And so literally 3 hours after she died in hospice, I looked at my family and I said, I know where she's going. She's going to the room in this house that they still owned. She's going to this room in the house. She's going to meet up with Granddaddy in that room. I said, can I take some equipment and go and see if I can communicate with them? And my whole family said yes. So I had permission from my family to do this. So my sister and I, we grabbed 2 pieces of equipment. They're called K2 meters. One is a black one and one is a gray one. And basically, when energy acts on them, the lights spike up. So the more energy that acts on them, the higher the spike on the light, right? So we go to the room that was depicted in my dream, and I'm standing there with these 2 K2 meters. They're about 3 feet apart. And I said, Nana, are you here? Both of those things start going off like crazy. I said, okay, stop and just go to the gray one. And just the gray one lit up. And I said, okay, stop on that. Now go to the black one, and just the black one lit up. And through a series of questions, I was able to determine what I feel was Nana met up with Granddaddy in that spot, and they moved on together. And we went back to confirm. We went back 2 weeks later with the exact same tools, stood in the exact same spot, asked the exact same questions, and we did not get anything. There was no response whatsoever. So my theory is they met up. That was Granddaddy's unfinished business. He was waiting on Nana. When Nana passed, they met up. They moved on together. And so I'm not going to look for them as spirits anymore, right? Because I don't think they're there. But to your point, Wes, I didn't get a word, but I got a sign. Right, I got that dream from Granddaddy that, listen, I'm here and I'm waiting on your Nana. She's going to be with me soon, and I want to let you know that. And so, like I said, it wasn't a word per se, but I was able to really visibly see and hear what I felt was a sign from Granddaddy.
So my weird ghost story might not even be a ghost story. When you dream something like that, you don't know if it's a dream or what. When my dad passed away, at his funeral, all I wanted to do was just hug everyone. Everybody was there. Thank you for coming. I miss my dad. I hugged my dad. I love my dad. My dad was my best friend. Oh. And one guy kind of matched that hug. He wasn't even the same body type, but the hug was similar to my dad. And I kept hugging that dude. It was my brother-in-law from all things. I mean, it was just weird, right? And I said, I know it's weird. I just need another hug. I'm sorry. I just need I was 25 years old. And about 4 days after his funeral, I got a big old hug from my dad in my bed while I was sleeping. Yep. But dude, it felt like my dad was hugging me. Yep. I can't say it was a ghost story. I can't say if just my brain was trying to fix that. But boy, if you told me that was 100% that's what it was, I'd say, well, that's what it was, because it felt like Dad was hugging me. Weird. Yeah. I can't.
And absolutely, I think if you're looking for that sign, if you're open to receiving that sign, you can get that sign. And for you, it was the hug. So I absolutely believe, that was your father saying, "Here, I am okay, and this is how I'm going to tell you I'm okay." It wasn't a word like a Houdini word. It wasn't that. Right. But it was your sign. It was what you needed, and that's how you know. I mean, if he were to come and bite your toe, right? You wouldn't know that's your dad. But the hug is something that you
I tuck my feet under the pillows. Nobody can tuck my feet.
See, there you go.
I'm jumping in the bed and tucking my feet tight anyway. Nobody can get to my feet.
There you go. So again, it's one of those things that you knew and recognized and were familiar with, and that's how he's going to communicate with you. So absolutely, I feel that absolutely was your father.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I wouldn't have asked for that because I don't want to visit from a ghost, even if it was my dad. I don't think I want that. I don't know, but I loved it. I mean, I woke up the next day just so happy. Mm-hmm. It felt like it was the Band-Aid that I needed for that wound. That's all I can explain. Yeah. So tell me about the different type of devices as we're running out of time here. You got K2 meters. I have a Facebook group. I'm going to put links for people that want to investigate on their own. They can hire you, but if you want to play, like my 20-year-old niece that's our babysitter on the road, we bought her some kind of, like a K2 meter. I think the energy spiked and you saw the buttons.
Yep.
Whatever.
She won't do it in her room. She's scared to know.
I don't
Smart
blame
girl.
her.
Smart girl.
I don't
honestly,
blame her.
for us, for tools, if somebody were to ask me what my number one tool is that I would not leave it without, it's a voice recorder. Because for me, an EVP or an electronic voice phenomena is the hardest thing for me to debunk. Like going back to a male's voice. If there's a male's voice and I know that there's no man on the property, I can't explain that. If there's a dog panting and I know that there's no dog there, I can't explain that. It's very hard for me to debunk. K2 meters, obviously we use those. They can be manipulated by cell phones and different things. So you have to take some of these things with a grain of salt. But if I've got an EVP and a spike on the K2 meter when there's no energy acting on it, that is building my case that something unexplainable is happening. So we have the K2 meters. We have a device that's called an EDI box. And basically that's something that if you set in a location, it has a K2 meter built in. So if energy acts on it, it'll spike. It also has a geophone on it. So if there's any vibration near it, the lights will indicate vibration. The temperature changes on it. If there's any pressure change in the room, a light will indicate on that as well. So we use that. We have a device called a spirit box. And generally speaking, it's an AM/FM radio that's been modified to very quickly sweep through frequencies. So when you turn it on and you start the sweep, it goes through a frequency every 1/8 of a second. And so it sounds like as it's going through these frequencies. The idea is that the spirits can use the white noise to communicate with us. So we use those. Let's see. Obviously, our night vision cameras. We have a thermal camera that we use. Again, these are all just various pieces of equipment that we try to get some different readings on. And if we can get multiple things to happen, then it builds our case that something unexplained is acting on them.
When you say a voice recorder, is there a certain type, or just turn on your iPhone?
Okay, for me, we don't really use our phones at all in an investigation for a couple of reasons. One, because they have so much energy coming off of them, they can manipulate some of our tools. And also, if you don't have the location devices turned off, they could manipulate some of your tools to give a location reading and such. So if you do use a phone, make sure it's on airplane mode. So to answer your question, voice recorders, just the little Sony digital voice recorders. We've got 15 of them, and I mean, you don't have to get anything big or expensive. I think ours were like 30 some bucks. And you just hit record and you let them sit in a room while you're not there and see if you get anything.
What was the box that said Anvil? What was that called?
Okay, that's an Ovilus. So that was specifically designed for paranormal investigations. It's a word bank, and the idea is that spirits can use their energy to formulate words. And so that's a very interesting tool that we take with us as well. We also have a device called a tripwire. And this is a 36-foot long wire, and every foot or so there's an independent K2 meter attached to it. The idea is that you can stretch this wire out across a room or a threshold or down a hallway, and you can ask the spirits to interact anywhere along that line, along that wire, which is kind of neat. So that's kind of the newer tool that's on the paranormal investigation scene right now.
So do people hire you to go and check out, if I have a haunted house, I want you to come and tell me if it's my imagination or if possibly my imagination. So, but do people hire you for that? Is that what your investigations are? Or is it just something you guys are doing and document on your YouTube channel? So
they can call us, and if we're in a position to do an investigation at that location, we absolutely will. We do not charge for any investigations. That in our mind is not right. So what we do is we go and research the address where the location is, be it a house or a business, try to find any background information on that, and then we can come and first try to debunk things. So for example, we had a business that called and wanted us to investigate his business. He had just opened, and it was a brick and mortar storefront. He had large windows. He had some mirrors down the walls and such, and he was convinced that his place was haunted. And so we went in there. We were there for about 3 hours. Could not feel anything. None of our equipment was going off. And so we set up some of our stationary cameras and we let them run through the night and we left. And so I called him the next morning. I said, did your cameras pick up on anything during the night? And he's like, oh yeah, they were going on and off throughout the night. And so I said, well, give me the timestamps and I'll cross-reference them with my cameras. And when I did, what we found was the way his storefront set, he was on a road that had a high volume of U-turn traffic. And so when the lights would come in, the headlights would come in, they'd bounce off the mirrors in his space and essentially blind the night vision cameras, to which he interpreted as paranormal. And so I told him, it's not paranormal, it's these headlights coming in that's making you think that. So either move the mirrors or move the cameras, and I think your haunting will go away, and it did. So we try to look for environmental factors first, and then we'll if we can't find anything environmental, then we'll do an investigation of that location. But I mean, we've had people like from South America call us, so obviously we can't do that. But if it's in a location where we can get to and we have time and to do it, we'll absolutely come and do it.
See, I love it that you debunked it, because you're not out there looking for like a television show scripting it. I'm going to find something and it'll be good for my YouTube channel. That you're debunking it. That's bonus points for me. God bless you. I love that. I love that.
Well, thank you. And
what about?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, and I'm just going to say, that's a reason why we don't monetize our YouTube channel, because I don't want somebody to come back and say, oh, you're doing this for likes and subscribes and to get revenue. Nope. Sorry, we're not monetized, right? We're doing this to, one, highlight the historical narrative of these locations, to bring awareness to these locations, and then to couple that with any paranormal evidence that we find. And so we're not doing this for money. We're not doing this for any type of, I've had TV producers come to us and ask us to do TV shows, but they've asked us to sensationalize it. And so we've turned down 2 production companies already because we're not going to do that. So, to your point, that's not what we're about for this.
They asked us to do our TV show, and it was going to be national syndication, but they wanted us to fight. And it's like, we don't fight. We're a different kind of couple. We don't really fight, ever. So if we do, it's a night and that's it. Yeah. It's over. Yeah. And then it's like, see, Natalie, you were wrong, and it's better now. So what about real quick, because we're running out of time, and I'm loving this. Thank you for doing this with us. I'm loving this. I'm eating it up. What about something built on a burial ground? Is that another, like a jail, penitentiary type thing? Is that something crazy?
Yeah,
But why would their energy be there? If they died in their house and they were buried 20 miles down the road, why would that be there?
Well, so 2 different things, 2 different answers to that. One, for me, a cemetery or a graveyard, we've done investigations there, and honestly, we've never captured anything there. And to your point, I don't think that that's where a spirit would reside if it's trying to communicate with us, right? But a burial ground, building something on a burial ground like Native American, yes, we've had some very interesting things like that. We investigated a funeral home in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, and this was right on Native American land, and it was extremely active. And so also Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, there were some instances where we would go in and play Native American music during our investigation, and it was met with some really interesting responses. And so those type of things, I think the burial grounds are a little bit different because they were so sacred. It wasn't just about the burying of somebody on the Native American grounds. It was actually a sacred. There was a lot of rituals behind it, and it was sacred to the Native Americans. So I think that's a little bit different. But going out and investigating a cemetery or a graveyard, to your point, we've never really had anything happen in those locations.
So, have you seen it might be totally debunked, you might be able to debunk it right away, and I would love it if you did. Have you seen the Teslas when they spot a person in front of the car, but there's nobody there when they drive through graveyards? Have you seen those videos?
I have not.
I'm going to send you a link. You got to see it, because they show you pedestrians crossing all those cameras, and they're in a graveyard, and they're like, there's no one here. And you see another person cross in front of them. I don't know if that's some kind of superimposed and they're doing it in post. I don't know. I can't prove that.
Yeah, with AI now, it's really hard sometimes on some of these videos. All I know is I was on I-75 headed south through Atlanta, and I saw a Tesla right beside me run into a park bench that had dropped off the trailer in front of him, and it didn't even slow down. So that Tesla annihilated that bench. So if the Tesla can't see this bench in the middle of the 5-lane highway, I'm not sure what's going on there. So.
Oh,
Oh,
gosh.
man.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. All right, so one more question.
Sure.
And you told me before we started I could ask you anything. You don't charge for investigations. You don't ask people for this. How do you guys make money in this business?
So the paranormal side of things, Soul Sisters Paranormal, we're not a business per se. So we do sell merchandise, we do sell some t-shirts and stuff, and that's really just to kind of supplement some of our investigations. Now the historic Scott County Jail, that is a legitimate business with my business partner Miranda Young. So on the paranormal aspect of that, that's where we make revenue. So we have the jail, we have the museum, so we make money on day tours when people come in and tour the jail for the history. And then at night, we have paranormal investigators that will pay to come into the jail to do their investigation. And that money goes back into a small salary for us, but mostly for the historic preservation of the building.
So when people go there to do the thing, do you tell them during the tour that this place is haunted and this is this, or totally separate because you don't want to scare the daytime customers?
So the daytime tours, if they ask, we'll tell them. Most people will come down and say, because again, it's 3 stories. So they'll do the daytime investigation and they'll come down and say, is this place haunted? Yes, it is. But if you Google the historic Scott County Jail, you'll see automatically, because of the reputation that we have now, most of the things that will come up refer to it as being haunted.
So, name the jail one more time and where you're located so people can come see you.
Sure. It's the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. So we're about an hour outside of Knoxville.
And your website?
So for Soul Sisters, it's www.soulsistersparanormal.com. For the jail, it's www.historicscottcojail.com. And
for merch, is that on just Soul Sisters?
Yeah, for Soul Sisters, everything about Soul Sisters is at soulsistersparanormal.com. The jail, we have daytime tours, nighttime tours, paranormal investigations. We got a gift shop, and that's all at historicscottcojail.com.
And what else? There was one more thing. Your YouTube.
Soul Sisters Paranormal is our YouTube. So any of our videos that we have there is on our YouTube channel, or you can watch all of the videos on our website. Our website really tells you really about us, the locations that we've gone, any upcoming appearances that we have, and then it links into all of our videos as well.
And since you guys do it scientific, which I love, is the debunking of the mirror one on there on your website, on your YouTube?
Not on YouTube. I believe it's on the website. That was years ago. Honestly, I can't remember if I put it on there or not. But yeah, we have the location on there. Man, nobody's ever asked me about the video before. It should be on there.
I think my magic friends would like that. For me, it legitimizes you as you're not just trying to say something, touch me. No, this is what this guy had. Come on. Now this over here, now, I don't know, it just legitimizes it for me.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. And we go into these investigations, like, especially for residential or businesses, we totally believe that you believe you're experiencing something. So we're not going to say, oh, you're crazy, da-da-da-da-da. But it's because we've been doing this for so long, we want to go in and say, you're just not thinking about it like this. Whether it be the lights coming in, just studying those patterns and understanding that, or a dog barking in your neighborhood or something like that. So these are all the things we look for, right? We look for airline traffic, train traffic, vehicular traffic, kids in the neighborhood, dogs in the neighborhood, anything that could be an explanation other than paranormal. And then when we control for all of those things and rule out all of those things, what we're left is the unexplainable.
Trains. I live out in the country. There's a train track 13 miles from me.
Yep.
And it makes an eerie sound when it goes by. It doesn't sound like a train. It's a low hum. It's weird. But it's 13 miles away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I bet on a night that's colder, it's a different sound, right? Because the environment, the weather is going to affect what that sounds like. So, again, those are all things.
Well, when all the leaves fall, you can hear it. You can actually hear the train in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's much different.
Yeah.
So those are the things you just got to pay attention to. And like I said, because we've been doing it for so long, it's just one of those things that just kind of comes to us, and we think about all of those things.
Wow. You are awesome. Thank
Aw.
you so much for being on.
We
Thanks
all
for
are
playing.
awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Hey.
Only thing we have left to say is see you next week.
Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Isley for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled Wesiseli.